We're recording now.
Okay.
So welcome, Ashley. Welcome to the
Thank
show.
you.
I don't know if you know anything about this particular deal that I'm doing, but I've had a channel for the last like two and a half years, and it was my own sort of. It was coming out of a relationship, and I was just like airing my thoughts and feelings about it, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And I eventually started doing shows and just having people on and airing the dirty, not too much dirty laundry like specific, but just kind of like getting sort of feelings out that most of us are repressed from doing in day-to-day life.
Totally.
And that's basically the aim of the show, in addition to just chatting and having fun.
Right.
So to give a bit of background on us, we went to high school together way back. How long ago was it?
2003.
2003.
Wasn't it? Class
Yeah,
of 2003?
yeah, 90.
So long.
It was 99, right? 99 to 2003.
Yep.
So that makes us pretty oldish.
Totally.
I'm 30. I'm 34. You're around there, right?
I'm 33 right now.
You're 33. That's also supposed to be a pivotal, like Andrea was saying. That's like Saturn return for most people, is that period of life.
Yeah. I feel it.
So you're in Hawaii,
I live in Hawaii. I live on the North Shore of Kauai.
and you've been there for what, like 5 years? Longer.
I've been here since 2010, so almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years.
Mhm.
How's it
Yeah.
been?
How's it been?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Everybody like wants to move to like paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny to like actually move to paradise and then realize that paradise doesn't really exist. It's just in your mind,
Uh-huh.
you know, because wherever you go, there you are. you know?
Right. Right.
So, but that is one thing that has been easy, possible for me, is getting to know myself a lot more. I don't know if I would have been able to do that had I been in California with everything that I was surrounded with. And
What prompted your move to Hawaii?
I wanted to live on an island. I knew that I just wanted to live on an island away from what I was surrounded with.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to surf and be in the sun. And I came and did all those things, and I've been doing them. But also, I've been in like this crazy healing process.
Your brother's out there too, right? Or
No,
he's
my
not out
brother
there?
lives in Fresno, actually.
So when he had the accident that was here in town?
Yeah, I was actually out on Shaw and Garfield, like way out in the country.
Okay.
Not way out, but past Shaw and 99.
How's he doing?
I don't really know because we don't speak anymore, because we just got in a really big fight the last time I was there. He had a brain injury, so he has post-traumatic stress from that, and it's caused him to be really angry and lash out at people, which I can honestly relate to because I have post-traumatic stress also, but his is a little bit more intense because he had a brain injury, so he's like really angry all the time.
Does he remember
And I think that
Does he remember the accident?
no, he doesn't.
No.
I've tried to talk to him about it. This was like after, kind of a few months after it occurred, but he didn't want to. He either didn't want to talk about it, or he said that he didn't remember it. So I don't think he remembered. Yeah.
And
So
I forget the exact circumstances. Were you with him when this happened? Were you in town?
no,
No?
I was in Hawaii, and I got a call from my dad really early in the morning that my brother had been in an accident and that his girlfriend had died in the accident. And yeah, he was on the side of the road out on Shaw and Garfield, him and his girlfriend. And somehow or another, they stepped in front of the path of a semi,
It
and
was a
she died
semi.
on impact.
Oh, wow.
It was a semi truck, yeah. And then she died on impact, and then he had a traumatic brain injury and broke a bunch of bones. Yeah. So he's recovering from that still, but he has a traumatic brain injury, so it makes it really hard for people to like get along with him. And I guess when you have a brain injury, you get really angry. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just mixing everything up in your head, especially if yeah. Trauma is trauma, though. Like, especially if he's already had trauma, that's probably just compounding it.
definitely, I can't even imagine.
Is it just you and him?
And a cat.
Yeah, this is Toulouse, the kitty.
Hey, kitty. Cute. Aww.
Huh?
Hi, buddy.
He's performing.
He's cute.
Yeah.
Aww.
He's our sock puppet kitty. He's floppy. You pick him up and he just droops.
I like that.
Yep. So you said it's just him and you. Do you have other siblings?
Just me and my brother. He's a year and a half younger than me. Yeah.
And he's your blood brother, not
He's
like
my full brother. Yeah.
Full brother?
We have the same parents.
Okay. So you were talking a little bit about therapy, like using computers as helping, like some sort of program, some sort of brain mapping program.
Yes. Brain mapping, not necessarily, but it reads your brain waves, and essentially it helps your brain to correct itself when it's not firing properly.
What does it feel like?
It doesn't feel like anything, honestly. It's all subconscious. So basically you have 2 electrodes attached to your head and a couple on your ears, and you're listening to a soundtrack of music. So it reads your brain waves, and every time your brain fires improperly, the music skips. It sounds really funny, and I was like really skeptical of it at first too, but the first session I started feeling better. Like my mind was quieter. After the 10th session, my hypervigilance pretty much went away.
So
And
how does it know when your brain is misfiring?
yeah, how does it know? Like what's triggering the skip?
Essentially your brain fires on different frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So basically your brain has delta, theta, alpha, and beta frequencies, and those are all different wavelengths. So basically delta is when your brain is asleep. When we're asleep, we're basically firing on delta. When your brain is firing theta, people tend to be more depressed. Alpha is the optimal range of brain activity, like during waking life. And it's essentially the same thing as meditating.
Okay.
And then beta brainwaves, people tend to have more beta brainwaves when they're hyper aroused or anxious.
Yeah.
So basically the program reads when your brain is firing either theta or beta, and in between is alpha.
Okay.
Your brain won't fire on delta because that only occurs when you're sleeping. So basically, when your brain fires beta or theta, the music skips, and that's basically subconsciously telling your brain, "Don't do that."
Oh, okay. So it's associating like almost like a small punishment, kind of like it's like a disturbance. Little disturbance.
It's basically telling your brain to become aware of what it's doing.
Okay. So it's like, you're smoothing it out a little bit. Like you're like, oh, there's a little wiggle there, so let's smooth that one out.
Right. Yeah. It's
Okay.
kind of like keeping you like this, as opposed to your brain. Your brain waves are like spiking out here. It's kind of like bringing them in so that you're firing more on alpha brain waves.
Okay.
Really interesting.
Wow. So theta and beta are like the more, the lower lying, the sort of like I guess you would call it the lower chakra emotions.
Yeah, like I said, theta is more of a slower vibration, which causes depression, and beta is more fast, which causes anxiety. And then right in the middle is alpha. So if you're in alpha all the time, it means you're present in the moment, which is why people meditate. Like the Chinese have been meditating for thousands of years. And essentially what they're doing is they're stimulating alpha brainwaves. So we're being like really present in the moment.
Right. Yep, I've been practicing various forms of meditation once I figured out what it actually was. I think I started off with Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, if you've heard of that one.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
I have that book.
Yeah, like they don't. You think it'd be, basic, sort of a basic thing you'd explain to a person, like, you live inside of this present moment, which is the only thing that actually is real, and then we have this thing called the future and the past, which are kind of not real, but they kind of help move your life along. Like you'd think there'd be something in kindergarten or something where they're like, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But there's not.
They don't tend to teach you what you really need to know in school.
Right.
Do they?
Right. I remember in in Brave New World, Aldous Huxley's book, they had, he wanted to get, like the main scientist on the island wanted to get, or they actually had a parrot that said, it like squawked like, be here, or be here now, or something every half an hour or something. It was just a reminder to the inhabitants, like, focus a little bit, because your mind does your mind goes off on like just insane tangents all the time, and it's so subtle it's hard to distinguish between like what is the present moment and what is my projections, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you're sitting there and pinpointing like, this is my hand, I can feel it, that would be called present moment. But then you have all the thoughts associated with your hand, right? So like it gets really, it gets fuzzy.
Yeah, triggering things.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something that happens in my life quite often. I'll be in the present moment and I'll get triggered by something that'll put me back into the past or something,
Yep, and that the onion you're talking about is, I think most people have some amount of trauma. I mean, if they don't have trauma, then they have like the problem of being born with a silver spoon, and it's like, they're getting hurt in the reverse way. But,
right.
But like whatever you have some level of trauma, and I think coming out of sort of like the dream state that most humans are in involves peeling that onion of bullshit, basically, that we have suppressed super deep.
Totally.
And it's not fun.
No, it's a really, really painful process.
Mm-hmm.
And I compare it to like like the Matrix, when Neo had the choice of taking the blue pill or the red pill. I feel like I took the red pill, and I'm just like getting so, can I curse?
Yeah, you can.
Getting so fucked.
Yeah, right.
It's like I could have just taken the blue pill and just like lived a life of like blissful ignorance.
Right.
Just like, ooh, everything's great and everything's fun, and just having this really dull existence, I guess, where nothing's sad, but nothing's like extremely happy either,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It is that, and we are in the Matrix in a sense. It's you have the society itself is the Matrix, and it's just a mental overlay on top of like the raw, embodied moment to moment experience where, you walk outside and your body automatically knows like the rules and the taboos not to break, and the sort of appropriate way to hold yourself, and who to talk to, and who you can talk to at all, who you should talk to correctly, and kiss the appropriate ass, and then of course like liberalism came and just did like microaggressions and like divided everybody into a billion more camps, and there's like it's just divide and conquer up and down, like from the top of the hierarchy down to the bottom, and it neglects the actual human beings that just need love. Like, we just need to be taken care of in some way, right? But you get lost in all of that mentalism crap.
Totally. It's a prison for your mind.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yep. And there's always more layers to the onion.
I keep having these revelations, because I think I've had like 25, 26, 27 sessions of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep having these like really intense insights, like things that I didn't really know before. And it's like one comes and then all of a sudden there's this like, not catastrophic, but there's just this like thing that happens in my life. Like whatever's going on inside of my brain is what is going on outside, like in my daily life.
Right.
So it's like this insight comes to me, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that before. And then this really fucked up thing happens in my life on the outside, and it's like, oh fuck, now I have to deal with this thing.
Yeah.
But with the knowledge that I've acquired,
Right.
through the process, you know.
Yeah.
So a big old test.
Right. It's that's the thing. Like that's the secret, I guess you could say, is that the external is our own internal, and it's not. It's. I feel like it's so much different than. It's not even so much like a co-creative like collective dreamscape as I kind of thought it was before. It's very much individualized as per person, and kind of like what you put out is like exactly what you get back, not just in a general manner where it's like you do something, you know, in your past lifetime and the karma may come back and affect you somehow in this one. No, it's like the things it's this life thing we're in, this reality or if it's matrix or whatever, it's directly tied into your own actions and your own like feeling space. So like if you tell the universe I'm ready to like look at my shit, and you actually mean it, then it's going to come the next day, or it's going to come like 2 minutes later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel that.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you're talking about, like in my post, I was talking about like repeating a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like literally the same things that I would do repeating that cycle would just come right back to me. Like I would be feeding this cycle of abuse of like, you know, I would like talk shit to this person, and then me talking shit about that person would come right back onto me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just like, fuck. And then it's just like another cycle again. It's like, okay. And then I'm going to talk back to that person again. And then it comes right back on me. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
It really is just a cycle that I'm feeding into. Like I'm literally getting back what I'm putting into it.
Right. And fast.
Oh, very fast. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I feel like it's a different space now. At least for me, the way the universe seems different to when I was younger. It feels like there's a more immediacy to it, and I think that's also a byproduct of being present, of practicing meditation and all this, is that it's like it becomes more subtle and fine-tuned. So if you do something, if you do an action and you put your whole intention and self and body and mind and everything, heart into it, then you get something coming back pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And it's not like you know exactly how the connections work. It's just something happened internally and then something is reflecting that externally. And it's almost like diving into the machinery of yourself, but with like a 3D, like, here's an item, here's a person, let's rearrange this, let's, you know, make amends over here, or, you know, let's do this and this and fix, and then it kind of like reflects back into your mind, right? With like
totally.
that visual 3D sort of representation to help your brain understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say like your mind can't tell the difference between thoughts and what's actually happening to you.
Wow. Okay, I can believe that.
So if you're experiencing anger at somebody, then your brain might think you're actually having like a verbal argument with someone and react accordingly. Or if you're actually hitting someone, it might think, oh, it's just a thought, you know. Like you can get screwed up if your brain is having this like blurring between what you call reality and what you call like the internal space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that.
What do you do in Hawaii? What do you do for work?
I currently, I work at my friend's food truck in the front, and then I assist private chefs on occasion, and then I do private shopping for all the rich people that live here,
Yeah.
or that come visit.
Okay.
All the like, somebody will rent out a mansion and they'll want it stocked with food, and then I'll go shop for their food, put it in their
Nice.
house. Yeah, I get paid for that.
Creative ways of making money. That's always good.
Right. Yeah, it's by no means anything that I'm like particularly passionate about. It's just that things that I'm doing to survive, which has kind of been the main theme of my life. It's just, doing what I need to do to get by and survive. It's like,
right.
It's exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going through a similar thing as far as money is concerned, where it's like, there's two parts, right? There's the child dreamer that has like an idea of what you want to be passionate about, what you would enjoy doing for money, and then there's like what you experience when you go out and actually grab at dollars. And I think that's another cyclical thing. Like if you've been in the same thing with regards to money, then it's going to stay the same until like maybe something like you found, which can break a couple of the brain patterns, or anything can change it, like a relocation can help change it, or a new person in your life, or cutting some people out of your life is very important sometimes too.
Absolutely.
But it's us, like if you go out and you have trouble finding work, like it's you. It's not
Yeah.
like you have to take
agree.
responsibility for it somehow.
I agree completely. And actually, in regards to that, I feel like my whole entire life, there's been like this veil on my consciousness that's been like people ask me what I want to do when I grow up. People ask me like, what do I like to do? What would I want to do for work? And it's just like, I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that. I can't even see that. I can't even envision that. And I think a lot of that has been me not even really being able to fathom having a future.
Yep.
Because I've been so stuck in the past.
Yep. You get paralyzed.
Like all my life, all the trauma and everything, like it just keeps me in the past. So I just have no vision of the future. And that's actually one of the things that was starting to come clear to me in the process of doing the neurofeedback. I started being able to like see the future. Like being able to like be like, hey, let's go camping. Hey, let's like go to this movie on Friday. Hey, let's like, do this and that. And I was like actually being able to be excited for the future.
Yeah.
For like first time ever. It's like magical.
I know, and I know what you're talking about. Like, I feel like to the more average person that doesn't have a bunch of trauma, like that sounds weird to say. Like, I finally had this thought about I'm gonna make myself a sandwich and I'm gonna plan for the future. You know what I'm saying? And it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually like
it's a huge thing.
Yeah, when you've been in the dumpers internally, then that is a huge thing. Like to be able to envision making a sandwich and actually carrying that thing out and then actually eating the thing, it's a big thing.
It really is. It's like people really don't understand that people who have depression or that have trauma or whatever, it's just that's where you are. You're in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in the present, and there is no future.
Yep.
It's a huge thing.
Yep. And do they give you any practices to go along with that, as far as what to do with the things in your past if they're still sitting there and boiling inside?
My therapist has suggested like tapping. You know what that is?
I've heard of it.
Basically, it's just like you're just tapping on your hand, but essentially it's just something to bring you back into the present.
Okay.
Because when we become triggered, it's like we're in the past again.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, not really. It's like I had a session yesterday, right? And today I'm starting to feel the effects of it. I.e., like I'm a little bit more relaxed. Like I was talking about on my post, like those things come clear to me after I've had sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing with the cycle, like that. I'm actually like I can see the cycle now. Like I see it. I see what I've been perpetuating.
Yep.
Like so no, they don't really give me any tools. It's like the session gives me an insight. It gives me insights.
It's just enough in and of itself. Yeah.
It's like brain rewiring, probably. So it just
she's saying a rewiring.
It's essentially what it is doing. Yeah, it's rewiring your brain, because your brain is electrical. I mean, your neurons and your, you know, it's
Right.
like there's a path that your brain is used to taking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, no, you're not going down that path. You're going to go down this path instead.
Right.
You know?
And
It's
brain doesn't
basically-
like that, even if it's called like trauma bonding. It's the Stockholm syndrome type thing.
I'm used to this. This is what I'm comfortable doing.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. And that's exactly how my brain is. My brain's like, no, life sucks. Life's shitty. People are shitty. Like, go down this road. This is the comfortable road to go down.
Yep. And that also gives you permission to isolate. It gives you permission to not speak with any of your fellow humans. And, you know, honestly speaking, most of the sort of judgments that we hold when we're in a depressed state have nothing to do with the other person. It's just us. And they can't defend themselves anyway because we're not talking with them, right?
They can't what?
They can't defend themselves.
Right.
Like if you're like, the world sucks and I hate everybody and everybody hates me, it's like, yeah, of course you can hold that notion because you're not talking to anyone that's going to, you know, oppose your viewpoint.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I find when I do interact with people, it's not really necessarily the case. It's just my own, like, preconceived idea of what life is like.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But then there are those instances when like, for instance, I was in a relationship with this woman, and she was, like, really good to me. And she was really nice and kind and sweet and awesome. And I just started not trusting her. Like, I feel like maybe she got a little bit too close to me. And I started, like, finding things to, like, not trust her about, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of, like, I created this, like, terrible reality for myself through that, you know?
Yeah. And that's still, like, the wounded child inside that it's just suspicious of everything, right? Like, if someone's being nice to me, then they must be trying to get something out of me, or you know, there's gonna be a catch somewhere, and then that builds the, you know, that seed of doubt inside of you. And then of course, like, if you're holding that and you can't be honest with them, then they're gonna feel something weird, and then it just that starts the other cycle. They don't even have to be doing anything whatsoever, right?
No. It's me and my own perceptions that tend to ruin everything.
Yep. That's I think also like a characteristic of being empathic, or more highly empathic than the average person, because you're more sensitive emotionally and you pick up on things that people don't, and the sort of norms and standards probably seem more ridiculous to you than they do to most people, right?
Yeah.
So if you did get some trauma thing that's going on, then you have to be like in defense all the time because you're too sensitive, and you have to be on. You're just always looking for attacks, and how to defend against those.
Absolutely.
And I think it's difficult for the normies to make friends with people like us that are more sensitive emotionally, because they don't get why is there a defense up in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But that still comes back to us to learn our own internal state very, very well and clearly, so like we can interact with other people without making it weird.
Right. Yeah. I think, I mean, me personally, I think that when I was a kid, I never developed healthy boundaries. So it's hard for me to distinguish like what's mine and what's another person's.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'll be in a relationship and I'll maybe like project my own. I mean, obviously I'm projecting my own reality onto the relationship. Whereas I should, you know, I feel like a healthy, normal person would be like, okay, this is all just me. This doesn't have anything to do with them. You know, I don't need to like make this bad. I don't need to make this weird. I just need to just come to terms with this within myself. You know, I've never been able to do that. I feel like I'm starting to be able to see that again with the training that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing boundaries and things like that.
I think part of it, for me, learning how to be more regular with people is just like, if I have a thing come up inside regarding that person, then just like saying something to them. It's like, hey, just voice it somehow. Like, you don't have to make it awkward, but just voice it somehow, and they're going to be honest with you. They're going to say, they're either going to confirm what you thought, or they're probably going to not confirm it. They're probably going to say, no, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't, you know, what? But then you can sort of like fix the mistaken perception in yourself, and then if you do that enough times, then you won't be having those. It's almost like the brain, like the little glitch in the music that you were talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of my problem in doing that has been not being able to voice those things to the person, and being afraid to communicate how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of like shove it down, and then it kind of like all comes out at once, and I don't really know. Another thing is like ways of communicating with a person to make them, not want to immediately go on defense mode. I haven't really been very skillful in that regard either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you tend to attract someone who is somewhere along the same spectrum as you. So, like, or you at the minimum attract someone who matches some level of the trauma that you're still dealing with, or like the appropriate sort of mirror for your shit, your current level.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if both sides are doing their self-work and trying to be aware of it, then you can sort of police each other. And, if you catch someone hiding internally, then you can call them out on it,
Yeah. Some people don't like that, though. I've tried, one of the relationships that I was in, I tried to, communicate with the person, and I don't know, they seemed really unwilling to communicate. And instead they kind of did this thing where they were like, what are you even talking about? I don't have a problem. Like, you're the problem, that kind of thing, like narcissistic gaslighting,
Yeah.
And that's when I should have walked away. That's when I should have had those boundaries to be like, okay, wait, this person doesn't want to talk to me because it's their problem. It's not my problem.
Yep.
But I didn't have boundaries at that point, and I kind of took it on as my own and was like, okay, maybe I am the problem.
Yeah.
And that sent me into like another, spiral of triggering and.
Right. Yeah, the self-judging thing, to me, that's the only problem we have here on Earth, is the judgment thing. It's not anything else. And of course, there's levels of it, but outside of the basic moral laws, which are like, don't murder people, don't rape people, which is ridiculous because the Bible preaches these things, but also in the Bible, like, there's all stories of conquest and rape and murder and all this other stuff. But aside from the ridiculousness of those things, it's just like, it's just guilt. You feel guilty about something, then it clutches you up inside, and you feel awkward, and you can't be like self-honest with another human because you're clutched up inside.
Yeah.
And we put on top of that all kinds of like, fancy words and medical terminology, and we prescribe all kinds of cures which don't cure anything, and it's a big mess basically. But if you can get over the guilt and just be honest, like, I've had all these things happen in my childhood, I've had all this trauma happen, but there's not any human that's stopping me from going and talking to the people, at least, making some effort to communicate something about it. And if it turns out to be irreparable, then you can do your own work. Like, you can write down the things you feel about that person, and if you want to sort of purge some of that, maybe burn the piece of paper and say, like, I release any energetic ties you have on me. And there's things you can do for yourself that help to release you from that situation, at which point you can start to be present again. Because if you're not able to be present, you can't move, you can't do anything, you just sit, or you'll sit in bed.
For sure.
And it's just you, yourself, and you. It's not like nobody's, unless somebody's like right next to you languishing, which happens sometimes, but it's mostly just you, you know, like you're sitting there inside of your little bubble of, you know, dank feelings.
Yep, I agree. I agree completely. Yeah, it's hard to not like want to be mad at another person.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like, you know, this person hurt me. This person did this thing to me. And now at this point it's just like, okay, well, that's true, but what did you do to them? Like, you did the same thing to them. You perpetuated the cycle too. You know?
Yep. And you're not
So
you're not gonna find a winner. Like, your parents aren't gonna admit, yeah, sorry kid, like I fucked you up, and there's nothing to do about it. And you're not gonna say, okay, parents, like, you know, as much horrible things as you did to me, I was also like a bratty kid, and you know, I didn't listen ever. There's not going to be a winner to the argument. It's only either like infinite stalemate and you don't really talk to each other, or else you just get honest and say like, hey, you know, like, life sucks sometimes and it's weird and we're probably mean to each other, but let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that don't talk to their family members for years and years. They cut them out completely just because of like anything, like an argument.
Yeah, actually, I don't talk to my parents at the present moment in time, because it's like having a toxic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's just nothing good comes from it. It's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. Actually, I was in California back in November because I was like suicidal, and I did not feel good at all. And I went back there and I went to the hospital because I didn't feel good and I just wanted to die. And my parents were just so unsupportive of me. They were just like, you just came back here because you want to hang out with your friends. And I'm like, dude, I'm in the hospital. Like, what are you talking about?
Wait,
like,
what's wrong with coming back to hang out with your friends anyway?
What's that?
What's wrong with coming back to hang out with your friends anyway? Like, I don't see where's the judgment happening.
Yeah, I don't know. And actually, I called my parents once I got out of the hospital, and they denied my phone calls. They didn't come and pick me up. They left me there. I was there in California by myself. I had to call my friend to come and pick me up. So it's just like, you know, my friend took me to the zoo, and my mom called me and was like, where are you? And I'm just like, oh, I'm at the zoo. My friend took me to the zoo, you know, just to make me feel better. She's like, what are you doing at the zoo? Like, you're supposed to. And I'm just like, oh my God. So, you know, it's kind of like being in a toxic relationship where nobody is supportive, nobody's loving, nobody's, you know, and it's like really unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it's just, I can't, in order for me to like have healthy relationships with other people, I have to like eliminate all of this toxicity from my life.
Yeah.
You know? And it sucks that they have to be some of those people, but I just can't have it, you know?
Yeah. It's something that has to be done. I don't know if I would say like, you know, do the ultimatum thing and say like, I'm never talking to these people ever again, but at least it's the boundaries thing. Like, if your parents are being toxic, and you've healed yourself enough to be able to see that that's what's actually happening, it's not some projection you're putting on them. If that's actually the case, then you just have to put a boundary. You don't even have to tell them about it. You just, you know, have this boundary up when you're speaking to them, and if it feels like you can express yourself a little bit honestly and emotionally without them attacking you, then maybe you can work with that a little bit. But the boundaries are essential.
Definitely. I guess I've never really felt safe around them to like express myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So it turns out that what turns out is that you're not ever communicating with them actually. Like, if you're here in town, you're not telling them why you're here. You're not telling them why you're in the hospital, and they're doing whatever thing they're doing from their side. Although all they're seeing is their own judgments of you, because you're not even showing yourself to them. It's like the same thing. You have the projections talking to each other, and then the actual human inside is being fully neglected.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a cycle too. It's really difficult. My relationship with them is really difficult. My mother is like a really bad alcoholic and a narcissist. So it's really hard for me to communicate with her at all about anything.
She's currently alcoholic, like currently
Oh
drinking.
yeah, she's been an alcoholic for as long as I can remember.
Has she been in and out of AA, or no?
No, she does not admit that she has a problem.
Ah,
She doesn't have a problem, you know?
she
She's
never got
like,
to the first step.
no, she hasn't. She never has. So it just makes it really hard.
Have you voiced? Well, you said you didn't feel safe, but have you voiced any of this to her at all? Like, has anyone told her, she's abusive?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. You can tell her something, but she will not listen to what you're saying. She will tell you that you're the crazy one. You know?
Yeah. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
The narcissistic thing, depending on what level of the spectrum they're on the very upper level of narcissism, anything, like they want to attack only. Like they're so fragile. That's, I think, what it actually is. Like the most narcissistic person is the one who's been emotionally cut so deeply that they can barely function without being completely numb. So they have this giant wall around them, and if they see anyone like poking around to try to get at any of their feelings whatsoever, it's like an immediate attack, like a proactive attack. They call it prophylaxis in chess. It's like a move that's anticipating every possible attack.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
And so you can't actually, even if you're being honest and you're like, hey, say in your situation, hey, I'm in town and I wanted to see you guys or something. There's always like an immediate searching for the ulterior motive, like what's she actually here for? If they're on that thing, and it again just bars communication.
Absolutely. That's how it's always been. How it's always been with me and her. It's there's never been any trust. Like, I never trusted my mom when I was a kid. She never trusted me ever. It was just not good.
Is it as bad with your dad, or is it different?
My real father left when I was like 6, I think. I remember liking him more than I liked my mom, that's for sure. My dad left. They used to be really abusive of each other. Like, my dad used to beat my mom and me and my brother and stuff. And I just remember my dad leaving. He left. He drove away one day angrily, and I watched him leave. I was 6 years old. But I don't remember him being, like, emotionally abusive.
Mm-hmm.
He was more physically abusive. My mom was very emotionally and psychologically abusive. And I actually talked to my father like a couple months ago about all of this, actually, because I told him that I needed to heal from my childhood and wanted to talk to him about it. And he was like surprisingly receptive. Mm-hmm. He was like really supportive of me, and like, he wanted to talk about things, and he wanted to acknowledge all the things that happened.
Your biological father you're talking about?
My biological father, yeah.
Did you talk about the physical abuse at all?
We touched on it a little bit, and then he stopped talking to me. I think it got to be a little bit too much for him to talk about.
Yeah.
It's hard.
What about your I guess stepfather, whoever came in after?
My stepdad, he's an alcoholic too. Him and my mom are like the perfect match for each other, really. It's just like she's super like emotionally, psychologically abusive, and he just gets drunk and is like whatever, like they're just like so perfect for each other. Like, my real father couldn't put up with that. I think he didn't want that. He didn't want the abuse, but he also didn't know how to deal with it. But no, my stepfather is very like dismissive, and he just wants to pretend like everything's happy and funny, and but he's like wasting away as an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't want to deal with anything ever. They don't really deal with.
For people who are running from problems, or I guess what you would call an alcoholic, that's the general definition of an alcoholic. Uh, you don't. It's like it's full self trickery when you're drinking, and you don't see it until you come out of it. They don't. They don't actually.
Absolutely.
They don't actually know. They don't know who they're hurting or how they're hurting them. The rationalization is like fully just taking care of everything.
Yeah.
Because you would think, like, if I tell you, you're hurting me, or this happened, that you should realize it. And it's like, no, they actually believe when they believe whatever tells them, like, that they are correct, that they are right. They will believe that until something shakes them out of their own little cycle that they're in.
Right. Rock bottom.
Yeah. Maybe multiple.
I feel like my brother and my mom and my dad are all like in this kind of cyclical, they kind of all enable each other, like they enable each other's addictions, they enable each other's like detrimental behaviors and abusive ways of speaking to each other, and and I've never been that way. I never wanted to be that way. I was always the one that was like fighting with them, being like, no, like there's more to life than this. And
Yeah.
all three, they live together. All three of them actually live together still. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like they all keep each other from hitting rock bottom.
Mm.
Because
Does your brother
they
drink?
each have each other.
Does he drink? Your brother?
My brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother is like a big cokehead, alcoholic, smokes weed all day, every day.
And your parents, so he's just like using them. Does he work, or does he make money or anything, or does he sell weed? What does he do?
He used to sell drugs. He was working at Pressbox for a while. I don't know what he does now. I don't think he's even able to work now because of his PTSD from his brain injury. So I have no idea.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even think my dad works. I think that they live. I don't know how they live. I don't know where they get their money from.
Disability.
Maybe. I think maybe.
Food stamps.
Yeah. I just like stealing from people. My dad actually stole my identity.
What?
Yeah, I swear to God. I started getting calls from Citibank.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, you owe $13,000 to Citibank. And I was just like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is a scam. And they're like, no, this is not a scam. Like, this is serious. And I'm just like, okay. So I called my parents. And finally they came clean and they were like, yeah, your dad had to use it for his business, this and that. And I was just like, you guys are assholes. Like, that's so fucked up. You guys ruined my credit,
Wow.
Yeah, and they didn't pay it. They didn't pay it for like a couple of years. And then one day I was just like, you guys are such pieces of shit. You got like 2 boats. You drive around in a Mercedes convertible. Like, sell one of your boats to pay off my credit card. And they were just like, no, you're crazy. That's out of the question. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm so done with you guys. So I like called the police, filed a police report, and my dad got busted for it. And they actually gave me the list of transactions. They are all to bars.
Mm.
Bars and restaurants, like
13 grand for bars and restaurants?
Say that again?
13 grand?
Yeah, and like stuff for my dad's boat, like marine supply, like all this stuff. And they told me that it was for his business. Like, he had to buy a water heater for his business. But yeah.
What is his business?
Stuff like that.
What does he do?
that?
What does he do?
He used to be a like plumber, like commercial plumbing, like grease traps and things like that, like restaurants and grocery stores. I'm not really sure what he does now.
I just I know that most SJM parents are somewhat wealthy to be able to afford that school. So I assumed you probably came from some form of wealth.
Yeah, my dad, his business was like $1 million a year business when he was doing it, when he wasn't such a gnarly alcoholic as he is now. He's always been an alcoholic, but he was like functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like as he's gotten older, it's gotten worse, and he can't function as much as he used to. But yeah, he used to do plumbing for like Safeway and Albertsons and like all that all over California and Nevada.
But it was a one man show, or he had like employees and stuff.
He had contractors. He
Okay.
had like all over California and all over Nevada, Arizona. He had contractors everywhere that he would hire.
I got you.
But yeah, not so much anymore.
It gets you. It gets everybody. The alcohol thing. If you're actually like if you're dysfunctional with it, if you don't know how to just have a couple drinks and stop, then it's gonna get you at some point.
Yeah, there's a difference between drinking like socially, like to have a drink, and then it's another thing to like drink because you're hiding from something, because you're running away from something, because you need to escape reality.
Yep.
I've never been able to drink regularly. I feel like my drinking's always been out of wanting to escape.
Yep. I'm pretty much the same boat.
I'm sober now, though. I haven't drank in like 6 months. Again, sober again.
By yourself or with programs?
By myself. Once I decide that I want to quit drinking, I'm over it,
Yeah.
So, barring I don't have any relationship come into my life where they want me to, no, not they want, but where I want to start drinking again.
Yeah. It's like peer pressure, but self-helped peer pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk about all this stuff, though.
Yeah. Yep. Something I noticed, I've said this a few times, but something I noticed in the times I've been in AA was that all it is broken people that need love, that have been neglected and have lots of numbness. That's all it is.
I agree.
And AA is so valuable because it does offer that, but it also requires, you to kind of buy into the dogma of AA, even though their dogma is much, better than like, the religious dogma that's out there.
I agree.
Still dogma though.
Yeah, it's all very formal, the way that they do the steps and everything that they read and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it all makes sense. The steps and everything, it makes sense. I've always been deterred from those kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good for if you need it. If you don't, if it's not working for you, then fine. And if you feel like it's gonna help you, then fine. But if you're struggling with alcohol and it's because you're hiding from something, the fix is to look at your shit.
I agree.
And part of looking at your shit is not drinking. That's just part of, drinking allows you to hide from it. So if you want to look at it, you got to not drink.
Right. And I think the steps actually, kind of, if you're following the steps, they force you to look at your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you have to admit, that you have a problem. You have to make amends with people you've hurt,
Yep.
So it's a good way of looking at yourself for sure, which I don't really think that I have a problem with. I want to look at myself. It's really painful.
Yeah.
So, but I should go. I've been to a couple on the island here, but it's just not a regular thing that I do. Are you sober now?
I have been for like a month, a little over a month. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was in AA for about a year and a half, and then I went back. I kept needing to play with the substance to see, I got convinced pretty thoroughly this time, though, that if I'm drinking, then I have zero control whatsoever. Like, after the first one, then it's completely done. Like, it's just over.
Dude, me too. I cannot, like, if I have one drink, I'll have as many drinks as it takes for me to, like, go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, the last time that I drank, actually, I was at this bar down the street from my house, like, right down the street, and I think I had, like, 5 martinis or something like that, and I drove my truck home. I don't remember driving home at all. But I woke up the next morning, and I looked outside at my truck, and my surfboard was gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, where the fuck is my surfboard? Where did all this shit come from inside my house? Like, I had, like, crap that I brought in that I don't even know where it came from. And I lost my surfboard, and I had to find, like, my auntie finally, like, she was like, oh, this guy found it in the parking lot at the bar. And I was just like, okay.
Well, if you're blacking out, yeah, if you're blacking out, you can't really blame anybody. Like, maybe you threw it out yourself.
No, I think I maybe like took a corner too sharp or something, or it was really windy that night also, so it might have flown out. I really don't know. The mystery, yeah. I'll never know the truth. But at that point, I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yep. And for some people, they need to go have like a standoff with a SWAT team and, you know, get themselves shot 5 times. Like, there's so many crazy stories of like the stuff people have had to happen in order to be like, all right, maybe I should not do this.
Seriously, for sure. You know what's really I don't mean to like talk shit about my brother or anything like that, but my brother almost died, and he was high and, you know, coked out and drunk when he got into an accident, and he's still doing the same thing that he was before. No,
were they walking or driving or bicycle? Like,
it was like right outside from my parents' house. It was like right in front of their house where it happened. And I think that his girlfriend was living with him at the time, and she had all of her stuff with her because on the scene, all of her stuff was like strewn out over the road. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It kind of seemed like maybe they got into a fight and she was trying to move out. I don't know. They had a really violent, abusive relationship, apparently, from what I heard. Again, I don't mean to talk shit about my brother, but this is just the reality.
Yep.
So yeah, and I heard that he's doing the same thing that he was doing before, you know? And it's just really disappointing, you know? Like, what's it gonna take?
It goes until somebody hits rock bottom, or like a regular person can convince them, you know? Because everyone has the voice inside their head, which we call ego, and it always tells you what I'm doing is fine and it's good. Even if it's involving, you know, snorting lines of coke all day and getting drunk all day and living with your parents, in order for you to keep doing that, your brain has to tell you this is fine. It's all right.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? Also, surrounding yourself with people who are telling you that it's fine. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people who, like me, I mean, I surrounded myself with enablers. You know, people who like to drink. That's who I hung out with. So it's like you feel better about what you're doing if you're surrounding yourself with people who are doing the same thing.
Yep. And you won't change if you stay in that situation.
Exactly.
It will not happen.
Exactly.
Because
I've cut so many people out.
Yeah. If you bring a different vibration in with your body into that setting, and they're trying to do their drugs and coke thing and beer, you're going to disturb them.
Right.
You know, it's not going to feel nice. They're going to like, something will start gnashing and they'll yell at you, or, you know, it won't go right. That was something I had to realize, was that, like, we have the good bad paradigm, right? That's kind of how we look at the world, in a very polar, like, dualistic way. But it's not like the good is better than the bad, or the bad is better than the good. They're just like the brain frequencies you're talking about. They're just different from each other, and they don't get along with each other.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I was always very, like, anti, like, my parents would drink and I would get really mad at them and stuff, you know. I feel like I was that vibration that came in and was just, like, fucking with their vibration. Mm-hmm. So they made me out to be the bad one.
Do you live by yourself, or you got roommates?
What's that?
You live by yourself?
Yeah, I live in a tiny house.
Yeah?
So small.
How much is your rent?
It's pretty cheap, actually. It's only $460.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah, I got hooked up.
we want to get a tiny house and some property and just like start growing shit and like have a greenhouse, have all kinds of like self-sustaining, like minimalist lifestyle out in the mountains somewhere.
So great. Do it.
Yeah.
It's so nice. I love this tiny house. You don't really need a lot of space. You can even have like multiple tiny houses if you wanted to.
Tiny house commune.
Yeah.
Well, that was about an hour.
Yep.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I appreciate you wanting to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's good to know that there's like other people who are on the same path. We're feeling the same things.
Yep. That's all people need to be doing is talking with each other instead of hiding, but it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, talking about the real things, not all the superficial, like trivial things.
Like what Trump's doing in office.
Oh God, I'd rather not. You know what? That's another thing that I learned actually in the process is that you cannot change anybody else's mind. You cannot make anyone see anything that they don't want to see.
Nope. You can make them. You can make them see it their own way even harder. That's something that you're able to do.
Right. Totally. So why even I don't even want to engage in political or religious debate anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it's futile.
It's completely futile. Yeah. I don't know why people try. Honestly,
because they think that they can change their mind.
My dad and I have been having the same revolving discussion about whether I'm going to become Christian as Christian, or Christian in the most correct way, like how he expects me to. And I'm like, how old do I need to be when I'm 75 and you're 120 or whatever, or 100? How old is he gonna?
I don't know. How old is he?
110 probably. When we're at this, and I'm still doing my thing and you're still doing your thing, are you gonna just be like, all right, Gary, you can do your thing, it's fine?
Right.
But they don't. People don't change. It just stays the same.
No.
And if it does happen, it's because something happened inside of them, and they're like, okay.
They made the choice.
Yeah. Maybe life is somewhat different than I thought it was.
We can only love people unconditionally. For who they are. Can't change them.
Yep. And they do die. So if you don't talk to someone forever, they're gonna go away at some point.
Yep.
Come visit us if you ever come to Fresno. We're over on Avenue 12 and 41.
Oh wow. Is that Madera? No.
It's on the way. It's on the way to the ranchos, essentially.
Oh, right on. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
You know where Valley Children's is at on 41?
Yeah.
You're just going north on 41, and it's another maybe 2 miles past that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Yeah.
And don't feel alone. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to me.
Or me.
I will.
Or Andrea. You can find her on Facebook.
Hi, Andrea.
Say hi to Andrea.
Hey.
She's over there painting in her corner.
Cool.
And Toulouse. The cat is here too. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Ashley. We are here to support each other, even though those of us who know we should be doing more of this don't sometimes. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'll send you the link when it's uploaded.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank
Ashley.
you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
What do you think?
Your story has a lot of parallels. That's why I was like, I'll be here too.
Yeah.
I would like to be your friend.
You should friend her. She's one of the only people I went to school with that I see now that's actually doing self-work and examining her shit, and I've seen her go through it a lot.
Yeah. That thing that she's doing with the brain is exactly what the mushrooms did to me. And it's true, you don't really feel it. It just, shit's getting rerouted.
Yep.
Because you're suddenly just thinking differently. a safer option for you as well.
Than mushrooms?
Yes. I'm very nervous to eat a mushroom.
Microdose.